Hello, we are on.
Hi.
We are indeed on. A little adjustment here. How's everybody doing? We'll have some people clock on. I was a little slow in getting set up, but here I am.
One thing you say, Dan.
What's that?
If you're on time to work, you were late.
I was here. I was here.
I know you were.
There was just some setting up that I had to do once I got here, and by
It was all
golly,
my printers.
we got her done. So today, we're really going to dive into SOPs, into a deep dive. And the reason that this topic came up for today is because Trey Jones, somebody who I've been kind of working with, made a post in our private group and was inquiring about having SOPs, and he asked Dustin and Colby Fisher, who really just have knocked it out of the park in creating the SOPs, kind of what they did. And then I thought, by golly, this would be a great topic for us to talk about. No.
Yeah.
No. So, let's just dive in. First, thanks for letting us use your shop.
Of course, we got to get some use out of this booth once in a while.
I do like to come up here and check it out. I really need to do it more often.
It's a long drive if you leave at the wrong time of day.
It is. That's why this works out absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. So anybody who's out there, you can feel free to ask any questions too. And we've got that open, and we will respond indeed. But anyway, jumping into SOPs, standard operating procedures, and basically it's an explanation or directions or the steps required to do any of the jobs.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's at least what I took is the biggest reason I kind of got brought on at OP was like the efficiency, the flow. We've had the part of needing to put that on paper now, but that's what we're thinking about all the time is how can we have, like, if we turn this camera around, like my 3 guys are working out there, they're doing the same flow on a coating every single time because we get the same results every time. So it's taken quite a bit of SOPs that we burned in. Now we just need to put them in paper. So we're still behind, even though we're ahead, if you will.
Yep.
We got work to do.
Yeah, and in the importance of any business, the more I dig into the business side of the world, I just keep seeing over and over the same theme, and that's like putting systems into place so you can scale your business. And you know, a lot of the stuff that we will talk about when I had my business, I did not do. Yeah. Like I just was not that advanced, and that's where we find most of the guys who are in our industry because it's a relatively easy to get into.
Yeah.
And funny side note, when I came into Dustin's shop today, they had just gone to one of my ex-employees to do a car, and I thought that was really crazy. But it did make me say to your guys, I'm like, I wasn't a cool boss necessarily like you are, like with giving them all the employee benefits and stuff. I was kind of a top-down, barking at people, your little man complex.
The man put me down, I'll put you down.
And it's kind of funny if you think the guy who they went to visit was 6 feet 9 inches tall. That's a freaking giant. I'm 5'5".
Yeah.
Can
and
you
I always
imagine
hire
me?
people like your size. I'm like, what? I need to have without being discriminatory, I need to have a height requirement or like a jump requirement to jump. Yeah.
Must be this tall to ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy, but good stuff, man. So as I keep diving deeper, the biggest theme that I see if anybody wants to grow or scale their business is putting all these systems in place. As a matter of fact, for you to be able to step back, kind of what did you have to put in place for these guys? And I know that you kind of had your leg was forced into step into the other side.
Yeah.
But what did you have that was already in place, and what did you find that you had to come back and put more behind?
And that's kind of been something that we've done with all of our employees for a long time is the part of just the same driving it in. It was just the SOP of like all of us together and kind of eyes on it. So it was a challenge, and that's where we came up with a lot of these check-in sheets that we've kind of emailed to a couple people. Dan has those now if you guys would like to get a copy and mess around on Canva, kind of tweak it to your liking. But once I wasn't on the floor with every single scenario, that it was something we had to have more of. Inspection sheets of cars coming in. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole, but we had literally one this week that bit us in the butt because we weren't thorough enough and we're paying for some parts, and it's a whole other story. But the systems that we did every single day together, and I think that was the years of like working together, hands-on mentorship, compared to like, I told you how to clean the wheel and why are you not doing it well, and then I'll go back in here, and it never worked. So it's been a lot of years with all of my guys together that we put in that grinding together, if you will, that it didn't crumble when I got hurt. But last year when we got this shop, we started throttling off of how much we were detailing. Partly of more pay, slow season, they need more hours. I'm gonna have more hours if I don't help you. So that was the conversation. So we had a lot of bumpy, rocky days and learning to get better and better before we had this scenario. If you talked to me last summer, it would have probably crumbled a lot with our injury situation.
I did talk to you last summer.
You did, this morning too. But we have been in the background a lot, working diligently, not just on cars till 3 a.m., but like systems and processes, and what hiccup got thrown at us today, how are we going to solve it? And thinking that way of process of eliminations, how we detail the car. If I could do the whole car in eco wash, why am I going to grab something else? So process of elimination is how you should think about any problem that you face in the detail shop.
So when we look at any time you want to scale or step away, the more clarity that you have. Like, yeah. I don't think employees kind of like wake up and they're like, I'm going to go do a crappy job today.
No.
But if they're not given the proper expectations and like being told exactly what you want from them,
yeah, it's
really hard to read people's mind and just get everything right.
Yeah. And we've seen that too. If I tell him, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, employee that's come back with us to the guys that are in the current situation, it's like, when did we get taught, or this, that, and the other. And so sometimes we have to like pause the music and all the machines and be like, hey, this is what we need to clarify, and meetings and those things. But that's where I felt like I struggled with SOPs to start, was like putting it in paper, because I need my paper SOPs, which they're good. But I would either be like, put the eco wash in the bucket and wash the car, and then it's too much interpretation. Or it's 5 pages and all I've done is put eco wash in the bucket, and it's too in-depth. So it's a hard one to do. Video is going to be something that we still have to do it, but video is going to be the best way, because then there's no interpretation skewing. Even Dan, he was going to come and open up my shop, and he was like videoing. He's like, where's the water spigot? Where's the and I was like, dude, that's smart, and it's so simple. And I hate you, and I love you for it.
That is so funny.
Pull your camera out and record it.
Hey, I didn't want to mess anything up.
Exactly.
So for consistency, like if you think of any of the bigger places, like a McDonald's or a Walmart, like everything that they do, their jobs are really drawn out for them. That's why they can put high school students in there and they can deliver a consistent Big Mac.
Generally, yes.
Generally. And generally, yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it happens. There's curveballs, and that's where, and even we had, when we built these check-in sheets and then some of the inspection forms, I tried to, so we kind of have an SOP, because I laid it out of how you would check that car. It's how you're going to go through that process. So it's not a how did you clean the wheel, it's more of when and where. But we spent a lot of times, and we even, like, these notes on my desk is grab a red pen if I missed the mirror or what, tree sap in our things, and giving our guys responsibility and asking what they think it's huge, and they get to be a part of it, not just here's another system for you, figure it out, we never did this before. So they get to ebb and flow and tell me, like, yeah, that does not work in the flow. Like, I think we talked about it in the last live, but someone called me like, how long for dwell time on X? And I said, hey, Alan, how long for dwell time? Like, he's been doing it more than I have. And so we look to that fashion of things, and it helps them, because we've all created our own systems from 20 other detailers we've worked with, or that aha moment of a good idea. So letting them have a little bit of free reign within the creativity, but here's the minimum bar of quality, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because for consistency purposes, still on that first point of consistency, if you have people bringing in too many different ideas, then it gets hard to be consistent. Yeah. Because
it's within and we'll talk about that and have some ideas to it, but you have to be able to not let it get too crazy. We've just been in the industry for so long, that 17 years now of watching what works, what doesn't, what system, what boss, and that's entrepreneur, and it's like, figure it out. And if you had a hiccup today, then don't do that again, or figure out how to fix it. And so that's the exciting part, and you find the right crew, they'll shift and ebb and flow with you.
So consistency, number one. Number two, for training purposes.
Yeah.
How do you implement your SOPs during the training? Like what when you got a brand new guy who comes in?
So, and honestly, it's been a very good training process slash interview process. We actually, the same exact maintenance wash, demo wash we would give to someone, we bring someone in and start talking about the chemicals and like our training. We've kind of shifted towards that. But in an interview sense, you get to see if someone can pay attention, if they can even go replicate the 2 wheels you did to that same. But then you're not in a busy day trying to throw someone in the deep end completely. But simple, stupid processes and teaching them has helped us for that training and for an interview sense. You'll see if someone's going to have it or not. That if they can't even turn the light switch that you just taught them how to do, then a little bit of a problem. But having that same system, that same consistency is what helps, even the newer guy to say, yeah, this is how we do things.
And then if you want to scale your business, it's super important to have them because you will be able to kind of step away from certain jobs. And this particular part right here, we're both sort of working through on our own. Like for myself, for all of the podcast stuff that I do, I end up spending 2-3 hours every single day doing video editing and posting stuff on social media, and it's it's a lot. And then I'm looking at, okay, if I can get somebody to do some of this work for me for less money than I can make taking on another coaching client or putting my pedal to the metal a little bit more, trying to sign up more owners, pride installers, or sell more product, through that channel, then I can make more money and still have more work being done and still be growing. And that whole concept is just absolutely crazy.
It is for sure. And we're still even kind of going through that identity crisis that like I've been doing sales and managing people and all these things. But then when I was not detailing and when I first got to the desk, it was, I had profit first to figure out and I had systems to figure out and I had checklist and I had all these things. And then I kind of got to a point of like, I checked all those boxes and it was like, what do I do with my morning? And it wasn't that I didn't have things to do, but in what effort, in what fashion, without 50 projects being open. And we're still struggling with it, especially because we have a new kid. So it's like, even if you had the most systems ever, it's like a throwing a curveball. And so we're still trying to make, like the detailer, that's 17 years of systems ingrained in. I go out there and prep everything with my eyes closed. But getting to the desk and being in that new job role fully, not just headphones while I'm detailing, we're trying to figure out those systems for the best success of what we do and dealing with still filling the shop up.
And right now we're both like digesting the same book, which, man, that just makes it more exciting for me.
I
it's
knew
like
you'd like that
club.
text this morning.
I did. I really did.
Yes.
So we're reading Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time, and that's kind of where that theory that I was just talking about moving towards, going away. Standing right here spinning in circles. And and Dustin's kind of doing the same thing. So as we're going to crack into how to actually make the SOPs and some ideas to produce these and where to store them and everything. But let's talk a little bit about if you're at the point where you're bringing in employees, then having those SOPs in place prior to them coming here is really good. A lot of times, I think it was in the E-Myth, they said, even if your business is never going to be more than just a solopreneur, if you start treating it like it's going to be scalable with 50 locations, then if you ever do want to scale, it's just going to be so organized and much easier of a path.
It's like the business that the detail van or whatever work van that's just thrown in compared to the hammer on the hammer slot and it's nice and dialed in. They might still be the end product of a detail, but I'll tell you, I went and did 5 more cars because my van's detailed compared to trying to find whatever part in the bottom of the mess. And that's the same kind of consistency that you need in your business and your daily life of, it may be chaotic in my head and sales and CRMs and all these things, but for these guys out there, it's fluid and they can do all their own work. There's not a million hiccups. Because I know if I do 10 cars in a day with no hiccups, like you come home on cloud 9 compared to 3 cars that completely kicked your butt. and you come home demoralized, and it's no way to live life. And so, yeah, but we're on our soapboxes, but we're still in it together, and that's the exciting part, is that we may hear something from someone else, and you're like, oh shit, that's the missing piece.
So as you looked at it at first, you weren't really doing that kind of trying to buy back your time so much when you're just like from 10,000 feet looking at SOPs.
Yeah.
You're thinking, I just want to get some systems so I can bring in employees and they can deliver a consistent product. When was it? Was it when you hurt your leg that the mind shift changed towards, like you were forced into sitting at the desk first, and then you started sitting at the desk, and then the conversation changed a little bit to now you're doing some of these jobs, and more of the jobs could probably be offloaded.
Yes, and so that's even where it's like, okay, what's sucking up my time today? And even part of that within, and it's not like my employees have been like, okay, can I have some more porridge? But everyone wants hours, everyone wants to make more. So I even remember making a post on the OP page and was like, does someone want to register all these warranties? Paid one of my guys to do it in his off time. Like, I don't give a shit if you clock in at 7 o'clock tonight and do it. And it's because he was like, I feel like I'm very inefficient at this. And I was like, the 3 hours it took, if that's what it was, would have been like 7 hours for me, because it's phone call and Dustin need and this and that. Like, I can't just and get it done. And that's what I'm trying to make the systems of what you and I talk about. If it's marketing in the morning and sales and this and that, we're trying to make that within the chaos and making sure the shop is still filled, while still trying to be like a present father. Like with my daughter, I gotta work, sorry, I gotta edit this, that, and the other. And we were there, but we're trying to buy back our time. And so when we got into that, it didn't just happen when we had the ankle injury, because we would have crumbled. Like, we had our best month ever in sales right after this happened, and if we hadn't laid that groundwork and having Dustin actually less working, it's been about when we got the shop August, and we got hurt in like the May prior. So once we got the shop, it was time to turn on the afterburners, if you will, because we had more overhead, more guys needing more that were ready to stay here longer rather than just go to the next job. So there was a lot of background preemptive strike before we ever got injured. We would have been so much more difficult to pull off what we've done if we wouldn't have done that.
So with this buyback your time theory, and I'm some of the guys that I'm working with right now, I have them doing this, and I'm doing it to myself, as I kind of alluded to. And that is where you really start taking all of the jobs that you're doing for your entire day, and look at where you're doing stuff that is, first of all, not enjoyable to you.
Yeah.
And second, that probably you could give somebody that work to do for you. Since you've moved over here, what have you identified as further jobs? Like, I know we talked about the registering of the warranties, but have you like really keyed in on anything and moved that off of your plate?
I haven't moved it off my plate, and some of that's just making sure, especially because once we got injured, we'd been a business of like myself and 2 employees for a long time. And then we doubled down and went to 4, and my wife's not working. So then we had to, even compared to last year when she was killing it at her job, that like I kind of was able to not pay myself at the time. We don't have that scenario now, and so we really had to get to work to do that. This season is proving that we can keep these many guys on payroll and keep pushing the envelope to then afford a little bit more. But it's the same thing of what we're talking about, that if half my day is busy office work, then is that time well spent compared to more marketing videos that have been kind of working in the eyes of our customers and for our marketing company? That was like, I was short and stupid and it was awesome and you did great. You know, I didn't need the huge production of Hollywood scenario. I feel like I'm rambling, but that's where we got to that point of needing to do more when we had more mouths to feed.
Yeah, and I feel like I've kind of used an example that is this for years when I talk about, well, I have somebody come over and take care of my yard once a month. I pay him $140, but he trims all the bushes and stuff. It's worth that money to me because it frees me up to not spend a few hours out in my yard doing that work.
Yeah.
And,
and
I can make more money in the 3 hours than the $140.
And I feel like as an entrepreneur, we get so, there's that point of like what I just talked about, of like making sure we're a little bit frugal and don't get ahead of ourselves, because I don't want to lay off an office person if we got ahead of ourselves. But most people try to work harder, work longer, produce more, which doesn't do anything really. Like, gets more sales, but that's not the way to do it. And so it's funny that we almost got stuck in our entrepreneur ways of like, I hated the books. I hated like the CPA stuff and the bookkeeping. And so I offloaded those early, and now I'm like in this position. I'm like, man, I have all this work to do. And it's like, why do you not just offload something else that you need to, but you're just, especially going from detailers, like, okay, I have less things on my platter, but like, is that what you enjoy doing? Is that what you need to do? Are you checking the boxes of what needs to be done, or just, so yeah, we're right in the middle of it, but just trying not to throttle too fast and come backwards. Like, I'd rather just slowly go forward.
And that's exactly where this time audit lays in. So if you take your entire week or 2 weeks, and every time that you switch from doing one task to another, you just kind of track what you're doing and how much of your energy it's taken. And then on a scale of like 1 to 4, do you like it, or does it just completely suck? And then after you get that data, you can look at the data and say, well, all of the things that I'm doing here are just draining my energy and I don't like doing them. That's probably the best thing to give away. Or it's something that's not making you as profitable, and you can pay somebody like 25% of how much you can make on the other side if you're doing another job that's going to earn you more money.
Yes.
So simple and so brilliant.
And so hard at the same time. But if you keep, it's like, and it's that thing of the throttle forward. It's that you may have not built Rome today, but all of these different things in the last 8 years that we're just diligently plugging away on is what makes to that bigger sales and bigger success. But you've got to take that time to really kind of structure everything.
All right. So when we go and we start to make these SOPs, there's obviously multiple ways that you can make an SOP. You could get a pen and paper and write it all down on a piece of paper. You could type it onto a list. You can type it into your chat GPT and ask it to organize it in an SOP form for you, and it'll do all that lifting. But if we think about how people take in most of their information now, they take it in through video.
Yeah.
So having these also in video is really, really cool. And you as the business owner can just video yourself doing all of the tasks and talk through it as you're doing it. And if you do that a few times, you can look at your own whole process and boil that down and find out where you can even save yourself more.
Yeah. It's even like just like purely watching video, like a football star, but it's like, how many times did we go to the back room for something? Do we need to hang up some hose reels now? You know, that kind of thought process as well as what's the most efficient process for your day. Not feeling like me fixing things, like I'm not a mechanic for a reason, because I don't have the tools readily available, and I spend half my time, I just don't enjoy being a mechanic. I'd rather clean the car.
when like kind of this goes backwards just a little bit, but how many systems for this functioning detail shop are there in place? Like, is there something for the people who are coming in when the customer is talking to one of your employees? Is there something for doing a decon wash?
And I feel like my reaction just now when you ask that question is like when you tell someone like, do that entire full detail, and it's like overwhelming when you actually know how many moving parts are to it. So it's like, okay, let's start on the very first one, like wheels, and let's make sure all those wheels look good before getting to the next. So it's just not overwhelming. But like you had said, going in the video premise of things, like that's like what we're doing for some of our videos right now. And it was a little bit of knowing how to edit and things, but it was like a clip of my decon and then polishing and then coding application and then the final picture, and we just voice over in the back, which is good for the customers, but you can make total SOPs out of it. Like my wash videos, the videos I made for Owner's Pride people, like all of those, that's a training video. You could go lesser or more information. Now we just need to find the time to go make one for every package and those things. I was lucky enough, I've had guys with me with hundreds of cars a month to critique and get to that place, but we still have work to do, because what happens when and if these guys go somewhere else, and we don't have years with them.
Yeah. And I think even...
What was that stuff you wanted to do? Random shit? I don't know. Talked about it earlier.
Yeah. You're all good, just maintenance list.
Clean up a little bit.
Yeah, because we can't polish that other car. Thank you.
There we go. Okay, so what other form? You could have it online and store it somewhere in the video, in the thing. Does that go in like your employee handbook? Any of that stuff?
We haven't had as much there. Our employee handbook's more on like the nitty gritty of covering us, covering them type of thing. We've kind of already started that background, and I've actually used some of my videos, like my decon wash, my maintenance series for customers. I've shown some of my employees, like, study this and let's talk tomorrow. And so you get an idea behind it. It's not completely foreign trying to tell them, and they're just trying to wrap their head around a play bar, that the video form is going to be your best friend, because then there's no room for interpretation. You literally pull up a link in 2 seconds. Like, you could have a drive of them on a TV. Like, go sit in the back room and watch video. But the best thing is that what it's going to do is how many people, like, I was not this comfortable on film, 5 years ago, but we've been trying to do it more and more, that it gets you over that fear of it, and it gets you on camera. But all of these videos, like, turn around and put them on Instagram in teeny snippets. So you're just double
absolutely
hitting it.
key. So you can rip all of them apart,
Yeah.
and take pieces of it and use it for your marketing.
You're going to do it today. Hey.
Crap, I was just getting ready to have another incredible point, and then I got super excited about that point, and
So when you started off with saying it's like, what's like even your intake for it? But we have a sheet, and you can ask Dan, we can show it later, but we have an inspection form just like you go to the dealership. And if we have some scratches, we have some dents, blah, 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 blah. And it's a little paranoid kind of to cover your tracks, but like yesterday we had a scenario that the check-in sheet would have said, no, that was already there and I'm not paying for that. So we greet them, we go over the car, we ask any of those expectations and things, and then that starts off like our entire process of the detail. But any of our guys are going to come up and greet and kind of ask questions that it's not foreign to not have Dustin here. Honestly, a lot of customers don't see me right now.
And another thing that makes it incredible to have these, if somebody does have to go out, you've got the explanation of how to do the job. I mean, even you can have your employees also make an SOP of the job that they're doing, which probably actually reinforces it in their head a whole bunch.
I just had one of my guys that he wanted to coat the visor with the new glass coating we finally got, but of his motorcycle helmet. And so I like, here's my tripod, go out and do it real quick. And he's like videoed putting it on, and it's simple, and I haven't done much with it yet, but like even that little bit, it's like, yeah, dude, take this tripod and like paint a time lapse of your car. And I'm trying not to get ahead of it, that it's like, here's 20 other things, be on your phone more, because they're dialed in and doing things. But if you ever have that day, you have a cool paint correction, a 50-50 shot, a time lapse, like, awesome. That's the kind of shit that I want to hear from an employee, and like, let's all grow together.
And this kind of mixes in with that time audit piece that we were talking about, but all of the jobs that you're doing in here. So if you are sitting in here and you're entering your warranties into the portal, or if you're, ordering products or any of those things, like as the business owner, it's good for you to have SOPs for all of these, because then when you do decide that's something that you want to offload onto your manager or to one of your employees, and for goodness sakes, don't think that an employee who is out there polishing a car, they're an employee. So if their job could also be to, organize the counter or put in warranties, like really whatever they have. So
and it's been more of those within, like, especially because we have been, like I said, used to 4 or 2 people, and we went up to 4. People were saying, I'd like to have more hours. And it's like, okay, so what else can we do? And it's like, at that time, I was kind of cleaning up after the guys to keep them busy. So it's like, all right, we have more shop maintenance. We made a whole maintenance list. And then we have a closing list. And we have a van closing list, because the van would be dirty after a while. So it was like, what hiccup, what system, and it is that. We have an inventory list in the back, and we try and do them on Fridays and Mondays if we need to order with the shipping times. But it's like, hey, you do inventory, shoot me a picture of the whiteboard. And then, so we're trying to come up with all those while still documenting. But we've built a lot of them.
all right, so like let's are you mobile?
No.
Okay.
So
So
just asking how much tint.
all right. So having them centralized in one location, maybe somewhere on your website or on a private page, having them on in video as well, really good. Also, it's a good idea because life isn't really as smooth as it is to do this live that we're doing. But think about this. You include troubleshooting steps in there. Like to help them really, so you don't have people just willy-nilly going in and doing it their way, but even the troubleshooting, like how to identify what a scratch is. Now you're really helping control the situation that could easily go out of control.
Yes, and then like why go grab Tech 90 that's damn near a lacquer thinner to when you could try Eco Wash or something subtle out. And that's what I teach the guys is why are we grabbing the most aggressive pad, polisher, anything we're working on if wiping it with Eco Wash or water like kind of works. And so that's the type of mentality that we train with, and it helps us create less mistakes.
Now, when you get these things finished and they're implemented, that doesn't mean that that's in stone for the rest of life either, because having your employees have the ability to make suggestions. Now, see, this is what I was terrible about when I had. I had one time I had an employee tell me that he thought that I should change my schedule because I had like to go Wednesday to do this guy and this, and I literally looked at him and I said, I didn't hire you to tell me to make my schedule, and I literally fired him on the point, right on the spot.
Andrew right there is the reason that we are not Tuesday through Saturday or 6 days a week anymore, which helped me get some more time with my family. Instead of being like, F you get out of here. And there's some times when it's like, all right, shut up guys, get back to work. But it's that flow, and it's nice because we have taught with the process of elimination, the guys have burned some paint before, and they know these things that they can start to talk, and I've heard it from like eavesdropping, they start to talk to customers like I do, and that they have confidence in quoting the job. And I remember when I first started quoting jobs for Tony Wilson in Colorado, like most of the time I was quoting way higher because I was like, washes this much, polishes this much, this, that, and then I'd be like $800 and be like, I would have quoted like 500. It's like, well, you're welcome. But it's knowing how long those jobs took and things, but instilling confidence that it's not just like Dustin is the fate, like all of you guys are why we make this go round. And I have to do a lot of work to, like I said, make it not seem chaotic in there when it's a million moving pieces, but that's why they're happy and they're doing well. One of my old employees, like I literally went to another shop and came back and it was chaos and it was a mess and it was all just a shit show. Like you don't enjoy it at all. No.
Create, test, refine, automate, review.
What does that spell?
CTRAR. That's funny. And so how have you like taken into automating any of these?
That's our biggest task now, especially because we like I said, when we were at the desk, it was like, okay, here's the financials to make sure we don't sink. Here's the next set of systems and recreating my vision to be out there. Now the next systems are how we're checking out, going through like our checkout sheet, and we're even starting to upload the paperwork into like the customer's profile. Then we can check it anywhere. Same thing with our warranty cards. We've been trying to implement those more now, and it's just from the guys. If you're about to push end in our system, take a picture of that and upload it. Like it takes 2 more seconds, takes some time off me, but it's not trying to tell them to like start calling leads or something. So there's what amount of do I offload without getting too outside the realm, but they're here, they want hours. Then like it's like me polishing a car. If I could be doing other things that make more money and help everyone else out, what's the difference with paperwork or stacking files and stuff?
How much do you think, I mean, obviously when you started, you really didn't have any of this stuff in place. Would it have been impossible, or just like you'd have ulcers and be miserable? Or would it even be possible to have what you have now without implementing some of these things?
No, I mean, even though it's been more paper written things in the last couple of years, the journey before it and the systems of knowing what worked and what didn't is exactly why we have come this far and been able to become a better mentor to the guys to be better detailers and not just be I'm frustrated how they do that, and then you yell at them and it doesn't do anything. And there's sometimes I still yell at people, but it would not be possible without any of it. It would be chaos. The volume and the customer base, we've created quite the beast to tame, and so there's no way if we were not at least semi-organized.
Will you just go through kind of the steps for just any one of the SOPs that you have in place, whether that's checking in the car in or something? We don't necessarily have to go out into the shop, but just kind of walk through one of your processes that you've done this for.
For the documentation and those types of things, the biggest one we've had in place, and it's more because the guys know this system of, like, say, our decon wash or any of those things, that's where we need to paper or video. We technically have them. Like, if it's on my YouTube, it's just not like in a SOP file. So we have them. It's just better organization. What was the question?
What I was just asking for, like, one example of walk me through one of the SOPs that's built.
Yeah, and so it's going to be just like the beginning, the inspection, like we kind of already talked about, and that's anything from like prior damages or even notes of like, hey, here's a headlight restoral that could be done. You can grab that one right there. I just didn't want to crash. And so we have this sheet. We took inspiration from the Owner's Pride sheet, rebranded it. But we have our check-in sheet here, and so every quadrant of the car, inside and out, we can say if there's scratches, dents, scuffs, swirls, all those types of things. Customer signature. So that really helps, and even just the legitimacy. When you're trying to play ball with a lot of big people in town, even if you're the biggest person in town in your market, the legitimacy, like, people enjoy that. Like, oh, do I need to sign something? Or, like, you hand it to them. One day we'll have the iPads that it's people notice when you care that much about what you're doing that it goes into their car. And so then on the back, this one's our detailing package specifically. So I have like a wash clay seal. We do that one exterior only from time to time. So we have the interior basic vacuum wipe down, our decon wash, and then we have a couple different detail packages that's like a wash and back, a mini detail, and a full-blown detail. But in this, and we'll show you later, it's hard to see on camera, but it's like hand wash, clay and seal, exterior paint and trim, thoroughly rinsed, spotless, demineralized, thoroughly rinsed, compressed blowout. And so this is the SOP that's vague of how you do it, but here is step by step by step. And it's like, if you finish that, I want you to sign off before someone else that could have taken over, and they need to do the inside and sign off. And our coding process is the same through it. And so we're trying to get more disciplined of, I finished the decon wash, but I'm about to go 5 other things someone else might be polishing, that they're the next column of what we're doing, so that they can take over confidently, but it's not missing. So it's not missing anything to that point.
Okay, so we got a clipboard in the back, the hanger to keep everything together, and generally maybe keys sometimes stay in here too.
Keys, I do enjoy them because and then the folder so you don't have a raw clipboard on a windshield wiper.
And now you've got 2 pens in here. What are each of these for?
Red pens, we started out with like, it's just like our wash and Jesus Christ, our directions for our customers for our wipe handout that we have. We put it in red to stress because it was like, stop wiping your car down with the touch-up product that I gave you and giving yourself swirls. And so we started to do the red and the black if we had something to highlight, but then it was us of, I think in my head of, here's the detail and I'm putting these things together, and my guy's like, hey, you missed something. So then they would write it on there for me to stand out, to go in and edit and add something. And so it's that ebb and flow of like, hey, let me know if I'm doing it up to par so I can help you guys out. Like, call me out. Not too much, but call me out once in a while.
And we were supposed to have Colby Fisher on here, who's somebody that I'm working with, and he just got all of his SOPs like lined up. So yeah, I was excited for his input too. But you know, can you grow your business without these things? Yeah. Can you effectively grow it and not lose your hair? No. This is what having a business with no SOPs will do to you.
I'm still growing.
SOPs. Okay. So let's say the takeaways from this, and again, if anybody has any questions about this, we will have available if you send me a message or an email at dann@ownerspride.com. I'll send you over some of these files that you can look at. And as Dustin said, you can put them into Canva and manipulate them to make them your own.
Yeah, that's how we took the OP one, and it wasn't that it wasn't good. It was a great backbone. It was just how we did things different, and I was trying to create almost like a paper SOP of how the flow would go at its most opportune time. So feel free to tweak it. I spent way too many hours on it, but it's something that we found very useful. So hopefully it does for you too.
So some of the takeaways here is SOPs are the foundation for scaling and growing your business. And you can start small. Just start looking at the jobs that you're doing and recording yourself, and you have to talk through the recording when you're doing them. So if you're doing them, you got to kind of say all of the steps that you have.
Yeah, and don't be afraid. And one thing I've found is like, oh, and it's an excuse that I can't go out and film. Like, I have the vacuum going and the polisher and music, that we've just been getting better at silent when I'm on my face. But if I turn around for that car, like, I'll just walk around, not even say, and I'll voice over later. And it's helped a lot with our, I couldn't do it, it's too loud, I made you stop working today. And so that's helped a lot. And then you're not at bay of, what the hell did I say in that car? Like, delete your voiceover and start over, and you just like talk while it's rolling. It's one of the easier ways to do it, rather than trying to silence everyone come in on a Sunday when the van blew up. All that good stuff.
And so you can start out by doing these again, one of them a week. Just kind of set yourself a goal. The first step is kind of the hardest, but once you get one of them done and you start moving to the next one and the next one, and you get more confidence, and then everything starts lining up.
And then you feel accomplished because you did it. You don't have the employee pushback of interpretation, but then you just gave yourself a bank of content that, like, you just consistently post, show people why you know what you're talking about. And you may not get 5,000 likes today and open the floodgates, but there's someone that jumps down that rabbit hole and gets you a job from a window tint on a RAV4 3 years ago we posted. Like, oh, I love that, I want to book it. So just SOPs and content, and they go one within each other, I feel like.
All right, so we've got a few questions that came in here. One of them is, how do I know which tasks need SOPs first?
What's the one thing you do the most of in the shop, or what's the ones that have the biggest problems? Because I mean, if you look at it in our business, everything starts with a very effing good wash and back, and everything else from there is the clay and seal or the decon or polishing and interior like it's the core of that. And if you don't have a good wash and back, your whole prep is done. And so start there and get your guys really good at washing, and then build and build and build and throw them in the deep end, because you don't learn unless you just keep doing it.
Yep.
But wash and vacuum, if you don't have that, you don't have a good detail.
Yeah. Where are your pain points?
That's the biggest point. If it's not a wash and back, where's your pain points? What do you feel like you're beating a head against the wall for? Put it in paper, put it in video, and fix that problem. So
and then as you keep going down the road,
it's easier and easier.
All of the things that you don't like doing, where you can earn more money by giving that work to somebody else. It's kind of, maybe the ego is the hard part to get past.
I think it is. I think a lot of it is that, even with my guys, they're polishing cars, they're paint correcting cars, that it was like, here's your nugget of like wheels and trim and glass. I'm going to coat the rest of them. Like, they can figure it out and hold their hands in those things like that. But ego is a lot of it, and that you'll never win the race if you are trying to do all the work.
And again, one of the things that Dan Martell says often.
I keep thinking you're about to start talking to the third person when you do.
One of the things that this Dan guy, he says that, like, and this is true, and this is kind of where the ego gets in the way a lot. And I had this same problem, so I admit to it entirely. But I would always think, these guys don't care about my business as much as me. They're not going to do as good of a job as I am. And they're just not, they can never be that person. And
you guys are good.
He says, what if you got somebody who can do the job 80% as good as what you're doing?
Pretty good.
That's 100% good. If you can free your time up to put your energy towards things that are going to make your business thrive and grow more.
Yeah. I mean, that's where we fell short. Was at one point we got another car to chase the van. Real good idea. And then we got a truck so we could put more people in it. And then we were just like, let's go do 3 people, wash every car, get back to... And don't get me wrong, it built the business to where it needed to be, because we couldn't just be like, we're done with mobile, and made no money to sustain the shop. But in that hindsight's 2020, it's like, just train them better and put back to it just took a couple of years to get there, but it was like some weird investments to get there. Like, hire people to do it for you. But I also don't regret it, because these guys are dialed in, and I don't stay up late at night worrying about them. It's a lot of other things.
Well, mine, as I stated earlier, is unloading some of my social media posting and video stuff. What is your next piece that you're working on currently for your business to buy back some of that time?
Online booking. And it's been one of my Achilles heel of like, I enjoy that I could go on in 30 seconds from right now and have a haircut book whenever his soonest availability is another factor. But even if we left it to maintenance and customers that were, it's not like findable online. But the pain point is we pitched them, we sold them, we got the deposit, and then it's like, okay, what about Tuesday at 5 or Wednesday at 6 and this and that? And then 45 minutes or whatever time till they're ready to respond and book it. It takes so much time sometimes. Or the customer's like, hey, it's been 4 weeks since you had your maintenance wash, and they are like a regular. Here's the link in that text, instead of being like, you want your car washed or not? Takes up a lot of our time, but we need to dwindle our packages and put the sex appeal on our virtual store of booking. What we're trying to, and this is Tao from Yellow Auto Sports out in Minnesota. He said the same, and it was ego. He's like, when I was trying to be the best in this business and it was running things and all that stuff, that he's like, we're generally about 2 weeks out. And it's good because we could take a lot of work in. And once I opened up my store and all these fears that I had of 2 people booking at the same time or this, that, and the other, he's like, now we're 4 weeks out. And because he's in my position of jumping into the leader and of 4 guys running. And he's like, and now we're 4 weeks, like, you have to fill that shop. You have to feed those guys instead of being like, oh, it's an off week, so I didn't have time to hit sales hard. So that's our biggest thing that we're trying for right now. And some of that may be AI communication in the background so we can get there, or an online book. But it's online booking is my biggest speed bump right now. And it's so fearful for years being like, oh, it'd be great to click on that button. And I talk myself out of it. But every other fear I've had in business is usually not as bad as I make it up to.
Even I need to do more of that too. I need to set up a Candle-y thing. And it's so funny. We can go right back to when you do that. Are you saying you can have these dates and you can just kind of pick from these dates more so than being like, well, what works for you?
Me being in control of
you're on an email chain with me where I have made this exact same mistake. And it's for a video project that we're going to do here at your shop with San Francisco 49er Dad. And instead of taking charge of it, like you're saying, I'm like, hey, I'm the most flexible in this because you've got the football games and you've got the shop.
We all replied of, we can do it whenever. And you're like, well, shit, that's not going anywhere.
Right. So my thing, instead of saying...
You literally did it to me the other day. You book it.
Yeah, so...
But we need to make sure that there's like, I have so many little like ceramic coating door jams or the barrels and all these little ancillary packages that are fine, but we really need to clean things up and make it look as clean as those. Like, we need to take out some pain points, and that could be how long it takes me to book that person. And there'll be some things we don't do on there. Like, I have a film installer that's another bit, like, I can't let someone book on that. But let's throw out some nuggets and see if we, like, maintenance washes, and let someone just be like, here's the link to book it, even though they couldn't find it on my website. But then they can finally pick Monday through Friday at 7, 8, or 9 drop off. I don't give a shit when you do it. You do that.
All right. So we're going to do it like this. I have to lean on you because I can't just be like, well, I'm going to use the shop right this time. So you're going to tell me when we can, and then I'm going to throw some dates out and try to make it happen like that. I'm going to take a little bit more control of it. Interesting. Okay. What tools do you recommend for storing and sharing your SOPs?
We're still trying to figure that out. I mean, like Dropbox and Google Drives, and those are... So, all that bullshit answer said. I have not taken advantage of the sponsored ad, but there's a company called Trainual that is... It's literally and I see it like every day on Instagram, but it's like a business without SOPs and structure. Is like a body without bones, and they just show like a person that's standing up and this blob of bones human. And it's one of those things, I know it's a good nugget. I'm just trying not to get ahead of myself with 50 projects, because I'm like, yeah, that'd be great, and that'd be great, and that'd be great. And it's like, dude, I don't have that much time. And so, but it is one that I've been interested in, because it almost is like an AI sense that it guides you and it helps you plug and play rather than a blank document on Word, and you're like, well, how do I start?
An interesting point that you just made. Like, you have to kind of identify what your company's most vital need is, and then put the most of your energy on that, because if you're putting it too spread across and you're not completing anything, then you're just spinning your wheels, and
you're spinning your wheels, and it doesn't make you feel like you got anything done. Like, it's just that check of the box. Even if it's like I finally took the trash out that I needed to, I finally went to Goodwill today. You know how much shit's been in the back of my truck for a while? Like, little check of the box. And it doesn't have to be the biggest project, but structured of when and why and where, rather than, because it's too much chaos if you just try and do everything once. And we're learning those. Like, we're still trying to get better at that.
A free place where you could put your video information is on a YouTube channel, and then just only give access to whoever.
Yeah, you can do a
want to
private
see it.
and like have a whole other playlist of things, and that's what we're getting better at. So that whole new maintenance series that we made for customers is all in a maintenance list. So.
Okay. And the next one, what do we got here? How do I get employees to follow SOPs consistently? Either that's a great point. It's like, you can put these in place, but if nobody's paying attention to them, and I think that's going to come down to the leadership and the management. But
It's leadership, it's management, it's being on like a real level with these guys, that we're not just like the boss that's not around and barking orders. Like, it's, I mean, I don't know, like, you got to have discipline and stuff like that, but like, the guys want to see that. Okay, so let me back up. I have a new assistant manager, and we got named as the assistant manager when my son was born, and I haven't had much time to put into it, but he's been doing what I need him to do at this point. And so even him the other day was asking, he's like, am I doing this right? Is there anything you want to work on in those things? And that's the type of employee that's gonna, we may have missed some check sheets today and tomorrow, and it kind of sucks, but burn it in, we'll get the next one, and not flipping a lid when one got missed. It's not the end of the world, but let's talk about why it's... So let's go to the conversation we had about this little screen that we got to replace this week. We had a screen that we got claimed that we scratched. It's back there somewhere. I don't think we had it happen, but we missed it in the check sheet. We had the customer sign it off, and it sucks to do, but I didn't point the blame at any of the guys. It just came to a head after all the arguments and the money out and all these things, that they saw what happened. And I guarantee that they got better today of doing check-in sheets and seeing those things, that I'm not just like barking order, like, why'd you guys miss this? You're costing me money. Like, I ate every single responsibility on it, even though I didn't work on the car. But that burns in better, and they don't want to see that kind of stuff happen. And so that's where it's not yelling at someone because they missed the wheel today. Like, you have to mentor and guide them to success. And if you've got a hot lid, like, they're not going to give you respect to get that shit done for you. Doesn't matter how much they make per hour.
I remember yelling at this guy on a boat.
Oh, I mean,
he didn't
I've
speak
yelled.
much English. I was just horrible. It was horrible. Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. You live, you learn.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any kind of like a reward system or anything, like, for these people to do it, or you just like give them the expectations and treat them well, and they don't get written up, and they're just happier to do the guys seem like they're happier to do their job having those clear expectations?
I think so, because it's not like, you told me to do this and you told me to do that, and he says it's a full detail and it's a mini detail. And so, yeah, I do see those things and those systems in place. It doesn't like put it on one guy. I even got after a guy the other day, and he's like, well, Alan and Keone always do the check-in sheets. I was like, that's a piss poor answer. Go out and do a check-in sheet. Like, get better at it. Like, that's not, we're all on the same level. And I'm not trying to just like, so I learned my lesson that I cannot change people with money. But if you give them goals and you have those aspirations, that you can form and mentor to success, that they will grow and shift with you. And we've learned those lessons over the years, that you can't break old habits within it, but you have to be like, we're all human. We all make mistakes. We all have bad days. That it probably isn't them having a bad attitude today because they're pissed off about what you're doing as a boss or the business. Like, we all have lives outside of here. And so we have to be human and realistic about that. And me being injured made me slow down and look at those things more than just like, why are you not working as best as me as the boss that's grinding? And so all of those rambling is kind of our success.
I like it. All right, we have one more here. What's the best way to introduce SOPs to a team that's never used them? So how did you first bring it up to your people?
honestly, it came with mistakes and hiccups. My training has always been the consistency that if I see someone doing a wheel the wrong time, the wrong way product, that you have to talk to them about that. So it was the actual like hands-on repetition of our SOP to train most of these guys. But then when we found a mistake, why was that mistake happening? If it was in the process of like, why are we etching glass? It's like, oh, you're using too strong acid when you're deconning the paint or whatever, and so those things. But throughout the career of these employees with me, that we had our back bench seat that we replaced. How do we fix that from never happening again? Check-in sheets and signing off, and how do we not have the underside of the seat missed again and again, or the Tesla frunk that you forget about because there's no motor. So it's just being able to be humanized and say, yes, we made a mistake, and rectify it, and how do we fix it tomorrow? So it's systematic.
So as somebody who's running a functioning detail shop, how do you find the inspiration to do these things? Like, because it's easy just for you at your level to fall into complacency.
It's part of that if we're going to talk about more, I need and I use it often. I need an independent detailer. You want to make more? Mirror what I know, or learn more than what I know. And that if I don't need to come out for the wet sand spot or the paint transfer, this, that, and the other, I'll sure as shit pay you some more money. And so it's those levels of, and we've even kind of gotten to one of the Word documents somewhere in my computer of, instead of like us getting I need a raise in a time that's slow season, of having an annual review, but I started to try and put into, what do I think that 18 an hour is worth, 20 hours worth, 25, 30 an hour. And it was almost like qualifications of what we have. And I think that's something that we can go off of. And it gives the $20 an hour guy right now, how do you get to 30 an hour? Rather than just time and this and that, like there's your roadmap. And so we haven't implemented it fully. And that's we have so many things we need to just check the boxes for, and that's the organization part of things. But having pride in their work, and that this is the job you delivered, the tip you earned, like that's not on me at this point. And so having some checks and balances, that they're prideful in their work, you see people that they're excited when they get a couple dollar raise and start making quite a bit more. Like, dude, I'm paying some of my guys more than my mom got paid at a high school 2 diploma, or she was a double major and a high school teacher for 30 years, and I'm paying some of my guys, and granted, Southern California, blah blah blah, but let's get some people that are ride or die, and let's pay them. And it's not always fun to clear a big payroll check, but these guys they're dialed in. Even people in our training last year, when I was still working with them, they're like, dude, these guys are locked and loaded, and we have a whole other year under their belt and like independentness, and it's cool to see them to grow and enjoy working here and shit like that. So who knows if my rambling actually answered your question. But
well, I like too that the thought of, it's not just money that motivates people and that's going to bring you the best employee, but having your opinion matter, and feeling some ownership in what you're doing. Is that ever something that you look at for your people, to give them a little slice of the pie to like get more buy-in? I mean, if you think about it, when I came to Owner's Pride, they gave me a 5% chunk of the company, which definitely makes a man work a little bit harder. And I believe they did something similar for the shop in Omaha.
We used to do bonus systems on coatings because it was like, why pay attention as much on a big coating job to a small coating job, especially if you had people knowing what you charge for them and they're getting paid so well. But we actually just found that it was because of how much volume, and did you touch this car and that and this, and I honestly saw that like our other details were not as excited to work on. So we figured out that number, and we pay our guys, like 2 of them are 28 an hour plus tips.
Holy crap.
And then you look at what is it to have all 4 guys on for an hour, like you better be making more than $100 an hour on your income.
And that, my friend, is another whole topic for another day.
Yeah, we could go down the rabbit hole a lot. You just got to show up at the shop, Dan.
I do.
I know you do.
Here I am. All right. Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for hanging out with us for an hour of your life. Any questions that you have, absolutely throw them into the comments on whatever you're looking at, or send it to me at DANN@ownerspride.com. And if you have not yet, go to dannwilliams.com and take your free business assessment. There's absolutely no obligation. It will highlight what your company's most vital need is that you can start working on your own, or you can join or hit up anybody on Team Owners Pride, Damon or Jimmy or myself, and we would be happy to talk to you about some ideas to work through those problems. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm generally happy to help people too.
Most every day, unless there has been a scratched.
Where the hell it is right now. If there's some people messing with me, then don't get in my line of sight. Other than that, like, here's some paperwork and here's some tips and tricks, and I'd love to help you out.
All right. Until next time, y'all, stay glossy.